again and welcome back to our course on OneNote 2016. In this section I want to take a look at the very important subject of backups. It's likely that you'll be putting a lot of work into your notes, and OneNote itself is set up to automatically back up your notebooks. I'm going to show you how this setup works in this section, and I'm also going to show you how to restore notes from backup copies should you need to do so. Let's start with the basics of backup, and by default settings will already have been made for backups in your installation of OneNote 2016. So let's go into Backstage View and check the options, and there is a page Save and Backup which has a few very important settings and controls on it. First of all, there is a default backup folder, and unless you change it, this is where OneNote will back up your notebooks. There is then a whole section on backup options below that, and the first of them is the checkbox option, automatically back up my notebook at the following time interval, 1 week. Now that's a default time interval of a weekly backup. If you use your notes very frequently and change them very frequently, or indeed less frequently than that, you may want to change that interval, but that's the default. And you also have a checkbox under that that determines whether you will back up any notebooks stored on SharePoint. One of the reasons there's a specific option for that is that you may have your own arrangements for backing up SharePoint, and it may be that backing up from a SharePoint site uses more resources and involves connection to a SharePoint site that you don't want to have to set up at the time that backups are being run. The third option in this section indicates the number of backup copies to keep, and mine is set at the default of 2 copies. When you make changes to a notebook, obviously every time you change even one page in one section, you effectively have different content in your notebook. And if, for example, you stick with a backup once a week and you 2 old copies, that means that what you'd actually have in your backup folder for this particular notebook is 2 copies, one taken up to a week ago and one taken up to 2 weeks ago. And as you'll see, when it comes to restoring this notebook, if you did need to restore it, you would have to go back to one of those snapshots, if you like. So you'd have to choose which was most useful to you, go back into that point in time and work on the notebook as it was at that point in time. Apart from these scheduled backups, the regular, in this case weekly backups, you then have 2 command buttons. Backup changed files now. This will look at all of the notebooks that you currently have accessed open within OneNote, and it will back them up if they have changes since the last backup. The last option is backup all notebooks now, which basically says for all of my open notebooks, back them up. Don't look at whether there's changes or not, just makes backup copies. And therefore you'll have a complete set of snapshots of all of your open notebooks. During the time that I'm recording this course, as I'm going to be making quite a few changes, what I think I'm going to do is to change from weekly backups to daily backups. And I'm going to keep an extra copy, so I can always go back to 3 copies ago to look for any changed versions that I want to go back to. So if I need to restore an earlier version, click on OK. Note the warning there about changing options and the fact that they won't take full effect until the next time that I start OneNote. Let me just exit OneNote and restart it. Note that I have 2 notebooks open at the moment. What I'm going to do now is to do a manual backup. So I'm going back into options, and on the Save and Backup page I'm going to use Backup all notebooks now. The backup completed successfully. Click on OK. Now what I'm going to do is to look to see what OneNote has done. So I'm going back to the File tab again. This time on the Info tab, I'm going to click on Open Backups. The backup folder itself contains a number of folders, and each folder corresponds to a notebook. There are 4 notebooks that were backed up just now when I did that manual backup. 2 of them are Wildlife 1 and Exercise 1. You can see the date and time there on date modified, August 8th, 2017, just before 7 AM. Wildlife 1 is one of the notebooks that's currently open. Exercise 1 is the other one. Don't forget, the actual notebook name is much longer than the display name for Exercise 1. Misplaced sections and quick notes are 2 standard features of OneNote, and you will always see these in a OneNote installation. I'll talk in particular about quick notes a little bit later on. But the other 3 folders here, My Notebook, To Do, and Toby's Notebook, don't have today's date on the backups because they're no longer in use. I closed those earlier on in the course, as you may recall. When it comes to restoring from backup, I may want content from any of those. So what I'm going to do now is suppose that I want some content from my notebook. That was the default OneNote 2016 notebook that I closed some time ago, and I want to get some content from one of those default pages. So I need to restore from backup. So if I double click on my notebook, I can see a further folder which is its recycle bin. But then I have 2 sections. I have quicknotes.1 and quicknotes.1, and each of them has the date of its backup in the file name. So the more recent backup is the one with the date August 1st, 2017 in it, this one. And if I want to get some content from there, to restore some content from there, I select it, click on Open, and now you can see that version of that section as it was when that backup was run. Now, of course, I did add further pages to that, but this just shows that when you're looking at backups, it is a snapshot of what happened at the time that the backup was made. Anything that was added or changed since then won't be in the backup. So let's suppose I want to get some content from the OneNote Basics page. In fact, let's suppose I want to restore the whole of that page. What I do is effectively a copy from backup to one of my current notebooks. If I just want that page, I right click on the page and click on Move or Copy. Clearly, if I wanted the whole section, I'd right click on the section header and do a Move or Copy from there. In this case, it'll be a copy, so click on Move or Copy. Choose my destination. Let's put it in the Wildlife Flora section, and then I'm just doing a copy. When I've finished with the backup, all I need to do is to right click on the section tab there, click on Close. Of course, the backup is still safe. I can use it again if I need to. If I go to Wildlife, notice in that section I've got a new page, the page I restored from backup, which is the OneNote Basics page. So that's how to do a restore. That's the end of this section. I'll see you in the next one.